Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're coming to you live from Ekiti, venue of the Fountain Summit. And so, yes, we did say we're going to tell you why we're here and what is going on. And we have the man behind the vision himself, His Excellency, Dr. Fayemi, Governor of Ekiti State and Chairman of Nigeria Governors Forum. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for coming.
Good
to see you and good to be here as well.
Good to see you. You haven't been in Ekiti in a while.
Oh yeah, for years actually.
Well, I'm not even sure whether it's my first time or not. But I will first question that I want. Are we happy?
Well, you're here, what are your impressions?
Well, I think you want to take my job right now. Asking the question. Because first of all, I want to ask you, Your Excellency, is wearing two caps hasn't been easy. The cap of governing 36 states and governing Ekiti State at the same time. And then being able to come up with a thought like this. How's that been for you?
Well, governance is on a tripartite, I agree. But the first one you refer to, governing 36 states, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I'm not governing 36 states. I'm just first among equals. And my colleagues are doing the jobs in their states. The forum is just a coordinating mechanism for peer learning, and that's why I even have a couple of my colleagues there today sharing experiences about what they're doing in their own subnational entities, but also as our own pressure group. Everybody has a union. This is our own union because we do get into all sorts of interesting engagements, particularly with the federal government. It's a federation, and we are subnationals, and that sometimes require intensive discussions with the other side, which is the complementary side, really, the federal government of Nigeria. But my primary assignment, the one that I'm elected to do, is as governor of Ekiti State, and frankly, that's the one that the ordinary people of Ekiti State will judge me by, not the coordinating, even though that one you are also elected to do. Well, I'm also elected. But this is of direct and indirect election.
We'll see how that plays out. But you know, the different states, they have different approaches to this particular kind of event. Some first year, second, third, but you, this is the third year in the saddle for this term, and many wonder, well, yes, always good to have investment to shore up. Every state needs that. Why did you choose to come up with it now?
Well, it would have been up in my second year, but then COVID happened. And that made it impossible to have a gathering of this nature unless you want to have it virtually. And we do many virtual meetings anyway, but to pull together a range of players, right from the vice president who is delivering the keynote address, my colleagues coming from various states, development partners, all of them now have protocols around travel. Where to go to, where not to go in the age of COVID. But that has slightly eased now, and it's given us the opportunity to do this as a physical gathering of the people that we want. That's one. The second reason is that we actually did this in my first time. We did 2 sets of summits like this. But then there's been a hiatus between my first time and this time. So it's more showcasing how far we've come and then planning the future. And that future has to be a future beyond my own government. It has to be a future that focuses on the state and the opportunities available in the state.
Part of the literature that has been put out for this event talks about impact on people. And the first question anyone would want to ask is, first of all, what is there for me to rely on to come do business in Ekiti State? I'm talking about significant infrastructure, roads, power supply, and even airports, you know, and a number of other things. So people want to walk us through the foundations being laid by your government for this to not just be an event, but the beginning of a series of economic activities in the state.
Well, that's one of the things we are having here today. Is actually a session of those who have experience doing business with Ekiti. Investors that over the past couple of years have set up here, how we've worked with them, particularly through our own development and investment promotion agency, Ekiti, and also how we've helped to deal with the usual challenges that businesses, particularly new businesses, have wherever they go. We recognize the gaps you've spoken about, and we know that we are not Lagos or Abuja or even Kaduna. We are Ekiti. First, we suffer from a perception challenge of being seen as backwater people of the hinterland, and all we know them for is the state of professors. They go to school. They have a passion for education, and we then go, let's leverage that. If you're looking for skills and you want to set up with a relatively affordable and competitive labor, then come to it. But you also need other things: infrastructure, power in this day and age, broadband access, airport, as you mentioned, and those are the things that the government started working on as soon as we got into office. So you would have seen that we were the first state to crash the right of way tariff from 4,500 to literally zero now for those who want to have fiber optic cabling and broadband access for businesses. And right now, we're benefiting from that. MTN and IHS laying cables around the state, almost 2,000 kilometers of that already. We have a cargo airport that is currently being constructed and will be finished before I leave office. We have an IPP that is also being constructed, an independent power project, in addition to the partnership we have with the Transmission Corporation of Nigeria to put additional substations in the state, also working with the Niger Delta Power Holding Company. We, of course, have roads, internal roads being reconstructed, new roads imagined in the state. But the challenge also is we have federal roads. And the story of federal roads, we all know. Well, so all of those things you're talking about, you have an enthusiastic and youthful population that are ready to try new things. We used to be a rustic, rural, agrarian people, and clearly we need to leverage on that and take advantage of how to move to a much more diversified economy, particularly agro-processing. So we have and all that.
Quite a number of interesting items you highlighted there, but we'll try and unpack them when we return in just a moment. Stay with us. The Fountain Summit for this year, His Excellency Dr. Fayemi shedding light on what this is about, why it's coming on now, and who knows why you just may look to come to Ekiti State and invest. Your Excellency, when you speak about those projects that you need to achieve, of course, naturally, looking at them, lofty projects. At the same time, I read some of your comments where you spoke about the private sector providing equal opportunity for certain people to ensure that things thrive. Could you talk to us about the private sector component in all of these? Because these projects have got to continue even after you're out of office.
As a matter of fact, the private sector component of it is the most critical component of it. I learned lessons from my first time in office.
There were things that we did then as well, projects that started, like Ikogosi Resort, which had become a thriving entity before I left. But by the time I returned, 4 years down the road, it was completely shut down. And it was no longer functioning. And it was because we did not complete the concessioning of the facilities when we did the reconstruction, renovation in my first term. So one of the very critical things we're doing now is to ensure that whatever we get into, we do it via our investment arm, which is Fountain Holdings Limited. For example, we have a major project that you're going to hear about later, the dairy project that we're doing in partnership with Promesido, producers of cowbell milk, and we're producing monthly in Ekiti now 80,000 liters of milk through that. But we ensure that it is a partnership in which we have minority shareholders. So Ekiti only has 24% equity in that. So regardless of who is in office, it would not affect the business. So that's the model, and that's why we insist that we need to give comfort to the private sector if they want to work with states, and we need to ensure that even if they don't want to work with us, we provide the enabling environment for them to thrive in the state.
Well, one of the things that's you've gone to agriculture, so let me just go there again. You began by saying that as one thing Ekiti State is known for, agriculture, and perhaps most, southwest states have that appendage to their names as well. But if you would adduce strength for any investor watching right now and listening to you talk, what would be the economic strength of Ekiti State in the area of agriculture, and what are the scale-up opportunities for any investor?
Frankly, we're one of the most fortunate states in this country as far as agriculture is concerned, because we're in between two climatic belts. We're in the savannah, so if you want to do cassava, if you want to do rice, this is a good home for you. We're also in the rainforest belt, so if you want to do oil palm, you want to do cocoa, you want to do rubber, Ekiti is the place to come as well. So with regards to the soil, we're good. What you want to then talk about is what other access do you have? Water. We have water across the length and breadth of the state. We have 3 dams, and we've just, in fact 4 dams, we've just resuscitated 3 of them back to full capacity. And in the northern part of the state, where we have the agro-processing zone, you have a dam there as well for irrigation, for supporting both commercial and smallholder farmers who already have a good land to work with. We are also ensuring that we focus on farm-to-market roads, which is always a challenge for investors. How do I move the goods that I have produced to the market before they get rotten, and then I lose all my proceeds? So we are doing that with them, and basically we are also ensuring that wherever we can provide support, high-yielding seedlings, fertilizers, and other mechanisms, particularly workers, we set up a College of Agriculture and Technology so that we can produce extension workers that would be there to serve all of these farms that I imagine in the state.
You see, Your Excellency, the extension services that you just mentioned is grossly ignored, and many people don't even understand what it means.
Exactly.
And maybe you want to expatiate on that a little, because most of the people who do farming in southwest Nigeria, most of them, as you very well know, economically we call them smallholder farmers, but they're just subsistence farmers. They just want to get by today for tomorrow. Add that to the fact that there was a report recently that a huge amount of food produced in the world, Nigeria inclusive, they go to waste because people are not able to transport them as a going due. How is Ekiti State managing that?
Well, I just talked about our rural access to markets program, which is a World Bank supported initiative, just to make sure that from our farms to the market, we try as much as possible to provide motorable roads for those moving goods. But you asked about extension service and people not knowing enough about it, and you're absolutely right. In fact, it was our extension services capacity that made us king in the 50s and 60s, linked to our marketing boards. We used to have commodity marketing boards. So the extension workers are those who go out to the rural farmers, not just to guarantee them off-taking, that look, whatever you produce, we will take it, and the marketing board will buy it at a guaranteed price. They also advise on seedlings, they advise on marketing, they advise on even your entire process from planting right up to harvesting, and they're there all the time to do that. In the 70s and 80s, they grew up into what they call ADP projects around the country. Again, World Bank supported agriculture development programs. But now many of those trained under ADPs are retired or about to retire. So you need a new generation of extension workers who understand modern agricultural technology, can work with commercial agri operators, and at the same time work with smallholder farmers and provide a link between smallholder farmers and the commercial operators in many states.
Well, Your Excellency, are there opportunities for Ekiti State in the livestock value chain?
Oh.
I'm asking because, my apologies, I remember the Vice President saying the value chain, the livestock value chain in Nigeria is something in the region of 30 trillion naira in value.
Huge.
Now, that is on the one hand, but all efforts to jumpstart that would seem like, hey, what exactly are we doing? So there's the NLTP, and then there's the talk about among ranching. What are the opportunities, in your opinion, for Ekiti State, and what's Ekiti State doing to
Oh, well, I just spoke to you about what we're doing with dairy. And one of the things we're doing is that in the dairy farm, which was moribund for 40 years, this Econ dairy farm that we've gone into partnership with Promosido on, we also, as part of our equity, we gave 1,000 hectares of land. So that for the cattle herd that we have there, they can also produce the feed on the farm. So it's a mini ranch as well as a dairy producing factory. And that's just one. And you need a replication of that on many scales. In addition to that, we are developing our own grazing facility where we signed up to NLTP, the National Livestock Transformation Program. And we've always argued that we need to transition from open grazing to sedentary grazing and then treat it as an agro-business that can have access to support, like we have anchor borrowers support for rice, for cassava, for any other crop that the central bank or the Ministry of Agriculture support. So it's just treating livestock the way you treat other normal crops, because it's a business.
And speaking about such, you know, all of this cycle, the system, the off-taking, the infrastructure has got to be there to facilitate some of these things. And before we went to break, you spoke about roads, among several other items. And we know that time is money, time is spent. If the road is not accessible, you lose money by spending time on those roads. And you spoke about federal roads and that collaboration. What is going on with that? Because different states always have this complaint about roads, federal structure. What's happening there?
Bottom line, the federal government right now has a revenue challenge. There's no other way to describe it. It's not lack of understanding the gaps that are there, and I can tell you the minister is doing a yeoman's job trying to award roads across the length and breadth of the country. Many of the roads in our state, for example, they are awarded. They have contractors. But because the contractors are not paid, they cannot move on to the road and fix the road in accordance with the contract they signed with the Federal Ministry of Works. So we need to look for creative ways. In our own case, for example, in the Ado-Akure road, which adjoins our two states, we went to the African Development Bank, and they offered to support us to pay for the road, to dualize it and reconstruct it. And then we ran into headwinds with the federal government on that. So we transferred that to the federal government, and hopefully that would be resolved shortly.
Well, we're rounding off this conversation shortly, but let me just ask you this one. Ultimately, for you, it's the development of Ekiti State.
Absolutely.
And the question that I want to ask is, what's the plan, or how are the people of Ekiti being carried along with this project so that they can own it, and beyond your government, beyond successive governments, it'll be something that the people will say it's our own because we have benefited from it. How is it helping the human capital development and the personal economy of the people?
Thank you. That's the most critical issue to deal with. In my inaugural speech on October 16, 2018, 3 years down the line now, I was very clear that I want Ekiti to become the place to live, to work, and play. And if it is going to be that, you need to create the climate and conditions for that to happen. And the first thing is for the people in the state to feel a sense of ownership of everything that is happening, so that it's not just something that passes them by. Why do we need an airport? Why are we doing broadband, fiber optic connection around the state? Oh, is it just Fayemi and his modern Lagos-style Tokumbo agenda? Or where does this benefit us as a people? And I think we've been able to bridge that gap. The understanding is growing that we will not remain a rural state forever. And two, that we can take advantage of being rural and rustic and be modern at the same time. In tourism, in agriculture, we're known in this country, all over this country. When you say you're from Ekiti, this the state of professors. We can turn that to wealth. And that's why for us, we are also building a knowledge city for startups, for anchor businesses that want to play in the technology field in a manner that is more attractive than even Lagos can do. Lagos will be the first port of call for most people. But if you can create the climate and condition, the enabling environment in Ekiti, there are some people who will leave Lagos and operate here, particularly as we move into this technology age. One of the things COVID has done very well for us is that we now know I can live in Ekiti and work for a company in Lagos conveniently every day without having to deal with the madness that you guys deal with in that city.
That's the relative terminology now.
Don't let us protest.
You were going to talk about the youths. I hope you can lump these two together. Because when you talk about projects continuing after each other, you came up with a law and you thought that, well, whichever government comes in needs to be able to continue with the project that you started with. And two things. One, does that mean if, assuming, without conceding, that if there's a white elephant project, does the next government have to continue with it? And the next government can always come up with a law and say, well, they can repeal that law that you have there.
Oh, yes.
So what's the intent of that?
You're right about that. The sole intent behind that, when I came in 2010, which can be a little confusing to many people. You've been governor since 2010. Why are you still here? When I came in 2010, there were projects that Governor Segun had started. And I did not want to behave in the typical way politicians sometimes behave. Oh, if it's not my project, if I didn't start it, I just leave it there to rot. But it's the state's money. It's not Segun's money. So I completed all those projects. And then when I was leaving 14, virtually every single project, including this one that we're in, this civic center, was left, in fact, in a far worse state than I left it, because the government that took over from me did not deem it necessary to complete those projects. I talked about the Kogosi that went to rot after I left, and I can name several other projects like that. And that's what informed dialogue. And look, we want to have a transition law that really encourages governments that take over from other governments to, as much as possible, complete outstanding projects. Many of the projects are not likely, at least in Ekiti, because we don't have that kind of resources here. They're not likely to be white elephant projects. They may not be projects that you would have done in that particular manner, but they are likely to be projects that will serve the people. Governor Fauci started a market, a central market in Ekiti, which was about 55% completed when I came in 2018. And we completed the market because it's for the people of Ekiti. It's not for Fayemi. It's not an ego-massaging vehicle. It's about service delivery. It's about the development of our state. And that's what informed that law. Yes, you're right. Another government could come in and abrogate the law, but I would hope that the people who take over this state after I leave are those who have a sense of duty and a sense of patriotism to want to continue from where I stop, rather than subtract from it. The magic of Lagos that many people talk about now is continuity. The new governor will not come and stop what the whole governor did not complete. It will strive. I go around Lagos now, I see Governor Sanwo-Olu completing flyovers, completing bus terminals that Governor Ambode started, and a number of those things. And Ambode completed things that Governor Fashola started, due to what Governor Asiwaju and Governor Tinubu did. Governor Fashola continued. And I think this is a culture to imbibe for the overall benefit of our country. There's so many abandoned projects in this country that it's unbelievable that we can waste money in the manner that we've done. And I think we need to change that culture.
Just one more thing before we go. I know it's a busy day for you. You've spoken about Ekiti. Everybody knows what to expect when you're here. Oh, you're from Ekiti. And then you spoke about continuity as well. So I know they say curiosity kills the cat. Would you be willing to take this wealth of knowledge, experience to the #1 seat to continue the project, the presidency?
Good question, Chamberlain. You are here to talk about our investment summit. Thank you very much.
About experience, continuity. Everybody wants to see good things continue, don't we?
Well, good things will continue. Nigeria needs good things. We will get to that bridge and we'll cross it.
What a way to dodge the question. Well, thank you very much indeed. We were speaking with His Excellency Dr. Fayemi, Governor of Ekiti State and Chairman, Nigeria Governors Forum, about the Fountain Summit 2021, which does coincide with the third year of his government, where he spoke about governance, social investment, knowledge economy, as well as infrastructure. So just keep watching. We will be back in a moment.